Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jose Aliaga Show. And today we have a special guest. His name is Shane Trejo. Shane is the executive director of the Grand New Party PAC, which fights political corruption in the state of Michigan. He previously served as the 11th Congressional District Republican Committee, and he's also a longtime journalist with big league politics. And also we have my friend Troy Coffin here. He's also a political analyst, and they are joining me here today. And welcome, Shane. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. It's an honor and privilege to have you here in the show. And, you know, there's a lot of going on in Michigan. And Michigan is an important state also for the presidential primary. And I want to start asking you, what do you think about this presidential primary in the Republican side? Who is running? Do you know who's running it officially?
Yeah, I mean, I know generally, I know there's a lot of people, Tim Scott, Chris Christie, even, our own Perry Johnson. There's a lot of different people who I think that, Vivek Ramaswamy. There are people who are, running, I think, more for, name recognition or to be an attack dog for or against Trump. So I think that there are those sort of people who are there, and they're not. We can discuss them, but I think we want to discuss the people who actually have a chance of winning, which are Governor Ron DeSantis and President Donald Trump. And if you've seen, they're kind of going at it a little bit, but I think every indicator that I've seen, every poll, every time you go in the grassroots, anyone you talk to, it's going to be Trump. Trump is up 40, 50 points in these polls. The Ron DeSantis people who I follow on Twitter, the ones who are really, going for him hard, they say, oh, we're going to, bridge the gap. But, Ron DeSantis announced his campaign. It kind of fizzled. It was on Twitter Spaces. There were all these errors. He's kind of been on the campaign trail, not connecting with people. Doesn't have the most dynamic personality, maybe doing a great job in Florida, but he doesn't have that personality that really connects with people. And then Trump, on the other hand, has the most dynamic personality probably of anyone in the history of politics, at least in the Republican Party. So it doesn't bode well for DeSantis. And I think the more DeSantis and the more DeSantis's supporters will attack Trump and attack the MAGA movement, that's only going to hasten their demise. And I've actually seen some polls that have Vivek Ramaswamy within 5-6 points of DeSantis now. So if DeSantis falls into third place, that would be an absolute disaster for him, and he should just bow out. He never should have ran in the first place, in my opinion. I think he's just going to get crushed by Trump, and it may hurt him, his chances of running as a president in future elections. How bad he's going to get destroyed by Trump.
I see. What do you think, Troy? I know you have some questions too. Troy? I think his camera is kind of slow. So, and what do you think about the Democrat primary? Who are the people running besides Joe Biden?
Well, there's Joe Biden, and then there's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Biden, he's, got the entire establishment behind him. I think he's definitely going to be the presidential nominee from the Democrats, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has done a great job of getting out, really important information, particularly about the harms of vaccines, the COVID vaccine in particular, how it was pushed through warp speed, no testing, the propaganda campaign to get it into children, and all this, criminal, evil stuff that's done. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. really gets that message across in a way that is powerful. And he also talks about the deep state. He talks about, what happened with John F. Kennedy, what happened with his father, how it might not have been just one lone gunman that killed them both, that there's likely a conspiracy involving, the CIA and other organizations that operate, completely in secret and are known to do these sort of awful things to manipulate the results and change political leaders undemocratically when they won't follow orders. So he talks about that. He talks about the insanity of the Ukraine war and how we're dumping all this money and these resources in Ukraine, causing a proxy war, risking World War III, and it's completely counterproductive and resulting in thousands and thousands of more deaths that are needed. So he's drawing attention to these issues. He's not so good on other issues, on global warming or other things along the lines of that. He's like a traditional Democrat, but on certain key issues, he's doing a great job of rattling the cages of the establishment. And I think you see him, over 20% in certain polls. I think he'll probably, top out at 35%. And I don't think he has a chance of winning, but I do think that him being around is exposing the establishment, and that when they inevitably keep him from debating Joe Biden, there's no way that the Democrat establishment is going to allow Biden up there with RFK Jr. and get humiliated. When they do that, that's going to make the Biden regime look weak and hurt them. So I really support what RFK Jr. is doing. I think that he is, kind of taking the banner up for the anti-establishment left. You saw Bernie Sanders get a lot of support. He's kind of tapping into that. And, and I think it will ultimately hurt Joe Biden, even though he won't win. RFK Jr.'s presidential run is going to hurt Joe Biden in next year. And that's what's important from our perspective.
I see. And so for what you're saying is, it seems like the next November election is going to be a game between Biden and former President Donald Trump. So what do you think? Do you think Trump have a chance to win it?
Yeah, I mean, if we can, eliminate the election fraud. I mean, you and I both know what they'll do. We were both there, so they're going to try to rig it. Especially through the mail-ins and the lack of accountability. So it's going to be a tall task for us to overcome that. But I think on a fair ground, Trump would trounce Biden. There's a lot of people who voted for Biden thinking that, it'll be back to normalcy, all this crazy chaos of Trump and his tweets and inflaming people. Once we get Biden in there, it's going to all go back to normal. And then, the inflation kicked in. Then you see Biden, doubling down on all the crazy radical leftism, pushing, all this, the LGBT stuff, particularly related to kids being indoctrinated with sexual propaganda, the constant, race baiting, dividing people on the issue of race, white supremacy being the number one terror threat in America, saying that kind of stuff that's completely absurd and ridiculous, as, Antifa and other groups burn whole cities down and attack law enforcement. That's what Biden says. So people are seeing that they've been duped, and they may not be, the biggest Trump supporters. They may think Trump, is belligerent or something, or over the top, or not like some of the stuff he does. But when given that binary choice, Trump or Biden, I think a lot of Biden voters in 2020 will realize, oh man, I made a mistake. I'm going back to Trump. So it's very much in play, but what we really have to be worried about is the Democrat dirty tricks that we inevitably know that they're going to pull.
You're right. During the 2020 campaign, we saw Antifa, Black Lives Matter destroying half of the country. And that was during the election. Then suddenly, after the election were over, they just went away. We didn't hear about them. But I agree with you. And Shane, can you tell me what's going on now in the U.S. Senate? A lot of people would like to know if you can give us an update about the race for U.S. Senate here in Michigan. Who are the candidates and the Democrat and Republican ticket?
Yes, there are a few different candidates right now for the U.S. Senate in Michigan. One is Nikki Snyder, who's a Board of Ed member right now of many years, longtime conservative activist. Another one is Michael Hoover. He is a businessman, doesn't have any political experience, but is pretty knowledgeable as a conservative. Another one is Alexandria Taylor. She is an election fraud fighting attorney. She represented Christina Caramo on a case that has been controversial. It's been in the news. There's like some sanctions regarding it. So we got three people right now, and they're the only three that have put their names forward, anticipating that there's going to be other people who are coming forward as well. I've heard former Representative Peter Meyer's name thrown out there. I don't necessarily see that as viable because he pissed off so many Republicans by voting for impeachment of Trump and really betraying Republicans on other key issues. Another interesting name is Chief Craig of Detroit. He ran for governor, seemed to be the front runner, but then due to some very shady activities with signature gathering, was thrown off the ballot. So he's another person who's rumored to be running for U.S. Senate, and I think he would probably be the strongest candidate who could actually win. The current candidates, it's hard to see them, gaining the money or the name recognition to be able to beat someone like Slotkin. Presuming that Alyssa Slotkin, Congresswoman right now in the 8th district or 7th district, presuming that she will be the U.S. Senate nominee, which all signs point to, she's going to have a lot of funding, probably hundreds of millions of dollars behind her. She's got those CIA connections, and she's being groomed as someone that they want to be in a major leadership role nationally. So that's someone that they really want to push as a leader. They don't want her to lose and be disgraced and fall by the wayside. So someone like Chief Craig would probably be the best chance of beating her. So we will see who emerges, but it's hard to imagine any of the current candidates actually getting the nomination right now.
I see. And you're right. I mean, the Democrats are going to put a lot of funding and the special interest for Slotkin, and obviously the Republican Party needs some support for our local candidates. And I see it's difficult because besides be a good conservative candidate, you need to have the funding. It's very important, and nobody's going to deny that. So hopefully Chief Craig decide to run, because that's going to help the party to have a good election. Troy, do you have any questions about the U.S. Senate for Shane? The U.S. Senate race?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask. So, who do you foresee as being the biggest threat to James Craig? Do you think that maybe Perry Johnson? And what chances do you think Nikki Snyder has at this point?
I mean, I think that if Craig gets in, I can't see anyone who would really pose a major threat. I think people would be like, we have a candidate who might actually be able to win, and people would support him. I like Nikki Snyder a lot, but it's hard to be someone who doesn't have a lot of name recognition. Maybe she got like a real influx of money, got super PAC money behind her. She can build that recognition quickly. But I think if Craig gets in, it's going to take the entire air out of the room, and people are going to unite behind him, thinking that, okay, he's the only possible viable candidate who can actually defeat Slotkin. And right now there's kind of a crisis of leadership in the Michigan Republican Party. So to have someone like Craig, who you could nitpick his record for sure, but he has a record of standing for law and order, has a record of being a very effective police chief in Detroit and other cities throughout the country. Definitely a candidate who would be good for the law and order message. That's a winner for Republicans. So there's a lot of pluses there, and I think that in the state of the party right now, if Craig got into the race, he would have it locked up pretty quickly. And I don't anticipate Perry Johnson running for U.S. Senate either. He's doing his presidential thing, and I would be much more looking for him to run for governor again when Whitmer is termed out.
What about Kevin Rinke? Do you foresee Kevin Rinke jumping into this race at all? Because I know he's been very active. He's been going around all the different county party meetings and getting his name out there, getting exposure. And he's been a little aggressive about it. Do you think he's getting, situated too soon if he's planning on running for governor, or do you think he's doing the right thing?
I think that Rinke, just like Perry Johnson, you're going to see his name running for governor again when Whitmer is termed out. It's usually easier to beat to beat a non-incumbent in governor races. And after 8 years of Democrat rule, I think the people are going to realize, oh man, we're really feeling the hurt from these radical policies. So it'll be a big opening where where someone, a Republican could actually win, and you'll have Rinke and Johnson, they're outsiders, they're not career politicians. That's kind of, and I'm not a big Rick Snyder fan, but that's kind of the message that propelled Rick Snyder, who wasn't really well known and was not the favorite to win the primary and become governor. So that's kind of a winning message in Michigan. I think they both realize that. They realize that that's a great angle to be governor, and they both obviously want it. So I see Rinke and Perry Johnson, then obviously some other people, but I see those two definitely running for governor again, when Whitmer is termed out.
And what about James Craig's fundraising efforts? Do you think he's in solid shape, or do you think he's got a lot of work to do?
Well, from when he was running for governor, he was, I believe, the overwhelming fundraise man who could raise the most funds. So I feel like that's going to become pretty easy to him. I think he'll have the right people behind him to be able to raise those funds. So and I think he's got a very attractive message, and people are going to want to, national people will want to pump money into him because they'll see him as viable. They'll see him as someone who can actually win. I feel like the big national Senate PACs will really take notice and pump a lot of money into Michigan that otherwise wouldn't have gone to Michigan. So it may, a guy like Craig running may not be the strongest Republican, but all that money coming into Michigan, pushing into a key race next year, that may help all of the candidates. It may help down ballot candidates as well.
Absolutely. And a lot of times you just got to have someone who can win. And, that's the facts of politics. That's the fact of life, And I do want to go back to one thing. Fortunately, we lost power here in my house for a minute, so I lost connection. Okay. But going back to the presidential race, do you think that Governor DeSantis, because obviously DeSantis looks like it's all but over for him, do you think it will affect his future fundraising efforts for if he wants to run for something in the future, or do you think that he'll kind of bounce back?
I think he's toast. I think he made whoever got in his ear, whether it was his wife or Paul Ryan or Jeb Bush or the establishment, whoever got in his ear and told him that, oh, it's your time, you're going to run against Trump, you're going to win, he's old news, you're the hot new thing. Whoever told him that, man, did they lead him astray. I think they destroyed his whole career. I think that there's no chance that he'll be able to run again for president down the line. Maybe, he is a young man, so maybe, many cycles from now, and when this election is ancient history, maybe then he could run, but not 2028. He's kind of, I would even think that, if he goes up against someone like Ted Cruz in the future, I would think that Cruz would defeat him, because something about DeSantis is just kind of off-putting, whereas I think Cruz is much sharper as a speaker and as a campaigner, and much more has a better ability to connect with people. So I would put him behind Cruz and others now. Whereas if he would have just stayed the course in Florida and got behind Trump and did the right thing, he would have been the heir apparent for 2028 without a shadow of a doubt. But he blew that, and now there's no coming back from that. So I would say no chance for DeSantis in 2024 or 2028. And then, down the line, maybe, because things change pretty quick in politics. Voters don't have the longest memory in politics when it comes to politics. But, he's definitely severely damaged his national chances with this ill-advised run in 2024.
Fair enough. And then I was just going to ask you too, what all do you guys got going on? You're leading the Grand New Party PAC, and you've part of the Next Gen Oakland County Republican Party. What kind of events do you guys got going on in the future that you can share with us?
Oh, well, the Grand New Party PAC, next Wednesday, I believe it's the 19th. Yeah, the 19th of July. We have a brunch event, brunch on the beach with Kyle Rittenhouse. So Kyle Rittenhouse, the 2A hero, will be in town in Grand Haven, kind of on the other side of the state, but it's worth driving out there. There's going to be a whole day of events with Kyle to celebrate him and, his heroism. And, a guy who's kind of like, our modern, we need to have, our heroes and our icons who stand for freedom, in the most adversarial of circumstances. And Kyle certainly fits that bill. So he'll be coming into town. We're doing an event with the Sons of Liberty PAC out in Grand Haven, a brunch event with Kyle Rittenhouse. So go to gnppac.com for more information on that. And if you're in Oakland County, I don't think we have any next gen events currently scheduled, but get in touch with Oakland County Republican Party as well, because we always got a lot of different things going on, and a hugely successful Trump dinner, Lincoln Day dinner was just had. We had thousands of people in Novi, and I heard Trump was really impressed, and extremely successful event, bringing a lot of money into the county that we'll need to turn it around here. We've gone blue recently, but we're doing what we can to turn that around as quickly as possible. So you can go to oaklandgop.net for more information on what's going on in the county.
And what date and what time?
The date for the Kyle Rittenhouse brunch is Wednesday, July 19th, and that'll begin at 9:30 a.m. in Grand Haven. And you can go on gnp.com, click on events, and the ticket portal is right up there.
Yeah, Jim, we have a lot of groups, conservative groups in our social media. You can share the flyer. We'll be happy to post it up there and share with a lot of people that watch the show. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like to attend and support you.
Absolutely. I'll get that to you, and we appreciate the support and getting the word out.
Absolutely.
And I do want to remind everyone that Jose Aliaga here has a fundraiser coming up on July 27th at Buckshot's Bar and Grill in Clarkston. So invite your friends, come on out. I think it's going to be a great time. Got some great people who are going to be there. So it's from 6 to 8 p.m. Is that right, Jose?
Yes.
Got it.